Hello everyone, welcome to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. I hope you've had a great weekend. I hope your previous week has been just as wonderful, and I'm looking forward to spending the next 45, 50 minutes with you all, answering your questions. Today we're doing a Q&A, where you list your questions, and in fact we've already got one question in there from Peyton, and Peyton, I will get to your question, I'm sure. But of course, if you absolutely need your question answered today, then the way to do that is to put in a super chat, and that way I will prioritize your question. A super chat is just a little bit of a monetary gift to the channel, and all of those proceeds go towards supporting the running of the channel, which is not a cheap thing to do. So all of your super chats are gratefully received, and as a special thank you, I prioritize your answer or your question with an answer. But otherwise, today we'll just go through them, and we'll go through them as they're listed. And I can see Wicco's already got a question in there. Of course, the wonderful Linda takes all of your questions. She's putting them into a doc that I can see sitting over here off screen, and we answer them as we go. Just to point out that if you do want to ask a question, you do need to be a subscriber of the channel, and because this is about building a community, and so if you do want to ask a question, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the white bell icon, just so you get the notifications of when we go live every week. We do this every Monday, and in fact, we've only got 3 shows left for the remainder of the year. I know. And it was Linda so kindly notified me today in an email that we only have 46 days left until the celebration of Christmas, which is on the Christian calendar. And so, but nonetheless, we've only got 3 shows left. Next week, we are going to be having Professor Brian Gill. He'll be our last special guest that will be joining us for 2021. I really hope you've enjoyed all of our special guests this year, and we have just had so many great people on the show. I am humbled on a continuous basis that so many fantastic pedagogues from across the globe give of their time and talents to come and join us. But last week, in fact, one of the things I've really loved about doing the show with you this year is I have had the opportunity, and I was really intentional about this year. I wanted to introduce you to more of my Australian colleagues, and as I said, Professor Brian Gill, he's joining us next week. He's from the US, and many excellent people have joined us on the show, many excellent guests from the US and from Canada. But this year I was really intentional in wanting to introduce you to a lot of my friends here in Australia. We have so many fantastic people, and I hope you've enjoyed that. Last week was no exception. We had Dr. Belinda McMahon. She had to correct me in how I pronounced her last name. Dr. Belinda McMahon was on the show last week. I noticed, Mackenzie, that you weren't with us last week, nor was Wicco. If you missed last week's show, can I really encourage you to go and have a watch of it? We talked about vocal identity, and a number of people, in fact, I don't think I've had as many post-show emails and comments left within the Facebook community group, etc., where people have said that show really spoke to me, it resonated with me. I've encouraged a number of my private students to watch the show because what we were able to discuss was so important, and that was vocal identity. And Dr. McMahon has done her research in this field. Her doctoral thesis, her PhD, was in looking at the development and the process of vocal identity. I really encourage you to go and have a watch of that show after today. Go and have a watch of it because as I said, so many people were really, really encouraged by what Dr. McMahon was able to share with us. So that was fantastic. Yeah, but anyway, we've got Professor Brian Gill coming on the show. He's not a stranger to the show. He joined us at the very same time last year when we were having massive technical issues. So far, so good. We've really ironed all of those out this year. So we'll be having, if we have a technical issue next week, we'll know it's Brian's fault. No, I am being very tongue-in-cheek there. We're going to be talking about the misconceptions in voice. And so this is going to be a really great show to finish our guest series with Professor Gill, because we're going to talk about the devil in the detail. You know, when we're, with the world sort of all going online with COVID, and there's been this real upsurge in people seeking tuition online, which is a fantastic thing. As a result, we get a rise of the backyard boys. And so we're going to talk through some of those misconceptions and really dig down into the fine print of, the finer details of voice instruction and our understanding around those things. Couple of other things, just to let you know that last week, I finished writing the scripts, as in, what I will, for the videos that I'm doing for Dr. Dan's Singer's Starting Guide. As I've been telling you for the last few weeks, I've started preparing a brand new online course. This is the course, and I'm really excited about it. This is the online course I wish I had at my very starting journey of learning to sing. So there is going to be so much in this course. I kid you not. Because when you first start learning to sing, it can almost feel like you're starting blind, or starting deaf, as the case may be. You don't know which way is up and which way is forward, and what is this thing called singing, and how does it work? You look at people around you, it looks like it comes so naturally to so many people, but for you, it may just not be that simple. This course is going to be so important as a starting point preceding the commencement of my singing online courses. And so even if you have already enrolled in the online courses, this is going to be a great course for you to kind of, hit pause on your singing journey and watch and do this course. Anyway, I'll tell you, I finished, can you tell I'm a little bit excited? I finished writing the scripts last week. I will shoot the videos for those in January, and my grand hope is that we will launch sometime around, I'll do a pre-launch sale. You know me, I'll give you a massive savings sale prior to launch, but I'm hoping to launch sometime in April. So this is going to be something to keep a lookout for. And finally, talking of sales, we all like a good sale, right? So for the Black Friday sales and the Cyber Monday sales, basically the weekend, Friday to Monday, which is, I think, the 26th to the 29th of November this year, in a couple of weeks' time, I am going to be having a massive sale within Voice Essentials. So if you're not yet enrolled in any of my courses, firstly, or if you were thinking, I want to take the next step into the next course or what have you, and you haven't bought the bundle, etc., can I tell you, this is going to be your opportunity to really save big prior to Christmas. I have done no special sales this year, and this will be the only one I do this year. So if you are wanting to save some serious coin, in the lead up to Christmas, and you kind of want to get ahead of the game in readiness to start the new year really proactively, really positively with your voice, then keep an eye out. The way, now this is going to be, the only way you're going to be able to get the special links is to be on my email list. Many of you are, so, but if you don't currently receive my emails, and the emails come out, you know, at least once every 2 weeks. If you are not a part of that email list, the best way to do that and to get onto the email list is to go to my DJARTS site. So DJARTS. In fact, if you look in the description section of this video, and if you look for the private singing lesson link, you'll see a djarts.com.au link. If you go to that link and go to the bottom of that homepage, you can actually become a part of my DJARTS email list. That'll get you onto the list, and that way you will be notified about the massive savings that we're going to be having in just a few weeks. I think that's enough. I like to keep you informed of what we're doing so that you don't miss a trick, or in this particular instance, don't miss, you know, saving some big dollars. But we've already got some questions really lining up, so I guess we need to kind of get ourselves ready so we can answer your questions right after this. Okay, so as I said, make sure if you we've already got a number of questions in the lineup. So if you want, you know, I only get through 8 to, sometimes on a good day I get through 10 questions, but if you absolutely need your question answered, then the way to do that is through a super chat. That'll ensure that we get it done. Peyton has asked, any suggestions for singers with TMJ and or chronic muscle spasms? That is a good question, Peyton. So for those who don't know what TMJ is, TMJ stands for Temporomandibular Joint. Your temporomandibular joint, if you literally sort of think about where your earlobe is, for most people, and sort of just come up to the top of the earlobe, where your ear canal enters into your skull. And if you come forward, you'll feel a little divot where your jaw, your mandibular, connects with the main part of your skull, and you'll feel a little point there. Now, when you open the jaw, you'll feel the jaw actually go past. It'll actually click up. Well, not click. It shouldn't click. You'll feel it move, and that's the temporomandibular joint, the TMJ. So when people talk about having TMJ problems, generally that comes about, it can come about through chronic illnesses like arthritis. It can come about through stress, because often for some people when they are stressed, they'll find themselves clenching. For singers, it can come about because either they've got into this really bad habit of having a jaw that is, you know, we want to have this big wide open jaw, and we want to be really careful in the way we treat that. Now, it is really important at this point that I stress I am not a physiotherapist. I am not a osteopath that, you know, does any manipulation of any joints. And if you are a person that is suffering from TMJ issues, my first point is to direct you to a physiotherapist who specializes in TMJ. It is a quite a big area of learning, and you want to go to someone who really knows how to help you reduce tension. One thing that we can do for those who are not suffering really chronic issues around TMJ is we can just in general release some of the jaw tension that singers might experience by grabbing the heels of the palm and dragging our hands, the heels of our palm, down the jawline, and just notice that when I draw the jaw, it's not going, I'm not sort of, the jaw isn't sort of dropping to what's called second position, but all it's doing is just drawing the heels of the palm down the jawline and allowing the jaw to sort of hang loose. For those of you who have done work with me either privately or as a part of the online singing courses, you know that we do a number, particularly the first 3 exercises in Voice Essentials 1, we do it with using our finger between our teeth, and what we're doing is we don't want to bite the finger, but we're also not looking to drop the jaw away from the finger either. And when we do, it just helps to release that sense of tension that we can build up in our jaw. And, excuse me, that can be, I had the most delicious pasta salad with a little bit of salami that my wife made yesterday. I had it for lunch today. It was so good. Sometimes, every now and then you just get a little meal. This is just a little thing. It was just one of those. Anyway. But the salami, it was a little bit spicy, so I've got a little bit of indigestion going on. Get on with it, Daniel. So yes, we're looking for that sort of sense of release through the jaw. So my best recommendation to you, Peyton, is, and you then go on to talk about chronic muscle spasms, I highly recommend that you go and see a physiotherapist and see if you can't get some work done with them directly. That would be my first point. Wicco has asked, what is your experience with teaching transgender singers? I would love to hear more of that from you. So Wicco, as you know, we did a show about a couple of months back with Nadine, and Nadine was kind enough to come on and talk to us about working with transgender singers. I have had experience I've had the great privilege of working with people who are going through that process for themselves. And so it's typically very individual. I wouldn't want to get into too much detail because generally it depends firstly on, are we working to establish a more lower vocal sound, a more male-orientated sound? Are we going the other way? We're wanting to establish a more female, higher voice. And so dependent on what the singer is looking for and where they are in that process. So often, not always, but sometimes there is a hormonal medicinal process going on that I am working with the singer in always trying to place the activity of the voice in keeping with where it is along that journey. And so that's just a very, once I love establishing a really open and honest discussion and communication with all of my students. But no more is that more important. Nowhere is that more important than when I am working with my transgender singers to ensure that I'm constantly in tune with where they're at in their journey. It's KJ, so I hope that's helpful, Wicco. It's KJ is asking what to drink to help voice heal and what to do in the healing process. I mean, like if you were singing for a whole day, what to do to recover afterwards. So, firstly, what to drink? I strongly recommend that you drink unadulterated, straight H2O. Now, that is, and I have to acknowledge, that's most important. Sorry, that's easier done in some places in the world than others. Here in Australia, for many people in the Western world, we have access to clean drinking water straight from a tap. So that's pretty easy for us to do. In some places in the world, maybe you're watching from a place in the world where that's not so easy to do. and in fact you need to do something with the water to ensure that it's healthy. But you get where I'm, the baseline here is we want to hydrate with 2 to 3 liters a day ish. If you exercise a lot or work outdoors a lot, then you're going to find yourself, or if you're pregnant, for example, you will want to probably drink a bit more. And for some, if you're a smaller frame and what have you, you might drink a little bit less, but it's usually between 2 to 3 liters. And you want to be in a habit of sipping 2 to 3 liters of water. I recognize that a lot of people talk in ounces, don't they? So it's 6 to 10 cups of water ish, 6 to 10, and 250 mils, and that doesn't even translate well, does it? Someone tell me in the chat, how many is it ounces is in a litre, because that would be helpful to know. If someone can quickly tell me, Linda, maybe if you can quickly Google. I don't go to the non-metric very easily. So 2 to 3 liters of water a day, but the important thing is the sipping. Because we want the body to slowly but surely. 3 to 4 gallons, Kelly has just said. So 3 to 4 gallons is around about what 2 to 3 liters is, apparently. Kelly, I trust you to not be leading me astray with that amount. You're a trustworthy person, Kelly, I know. So I think we can trust Kelly. 3 to 4 gallons is around about your 2 to 3 litre. 1 litre is 33.8 ounces from Redmine. Okay, so you can all do your maths from there. 3/4. Oh dear. Okay. 3/4 of a gallon. I see. Can you imagine if everyone walked away going, Dr. Dan says you should drink between 3 to 4 gallons of water a day? That would be super unhealthy. Do not go and drink 3 to 4 gallons. Kelly, I'm so glad. You and I, in our lesson on Friday, we're going to have a good chuckle about that. Okay, 3/4 of a gallon is around about your 2 to 3 liters. Is that right? I don't. Look it up in Google. That's what it's there for. Okay, 2 to 3 liters of water a day. But the important thing is that you're sipping it, that you are ingesting it slowly so that your body is learning to actually retain the hydration. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you hit your body with a massive Slurpee or a litre of water or whatever in one hit, in a short amount of time, 10, 15 minutes, you are very quickly going to find yourself going to the toilet because your body goes, excess hydration, don't need it, let's expel it. And so what we have to do is get our bodies into a habit of retaining that hydration so that we are well hydrated long term. And so as far as, and that goes for healing the voice as well, if we need to, and I think when you say healing, KJ, I think it's more important that we recognize, I think what you're talking about is more vocal recovery. And so in fact, in the new Singer's Starting Guide, I'm going to go into all of that. So you'll want to check that out because there's a whole range of things that we can do to keep the voice well maintained. And hydration is one of those, as well as doing things like steaming. But one of the other really important things in helping your voice recover is what you did at the very beginning of your practice set or your performance set, and that is for you to warm up. Doing a warm up before you sing and then being really intentional about doing a vocal cool down after you've sung goes a massive, both of them go a massive way towards how quickly the voice recovers, ready for the next sing, whether it be the next day or what have you. So they are some disciplines, and that's the key word, right? These are disciplines. If you know, there are no magic wands, and we're going to be talking about this more next week when we talk with Professor Gill. There are no magic wands. We are a biological instrument, and our biology responds as biology, not as a hard and fast instrument. You know, this every day, and you'll have noticed this in yourself. Every day you come to the voice, you know, you notice, oh, my voice is it feels a bit different, or there's something, you know, I didn't sleep well, and so I feel like it ebbs and flows. You know, now great technique helps to, in a sense, compress that variability. Yeah, but even with great technique just helps to support you through those moments of variability. And ladies, you will have noticed more variability than us guys, simply because of things like menstrual cycle, you know, going through menopause. Those sort of hormonally induced variabilities are really key considerations for female singers. So there you go. It's KG. Hopefully that's helpful. And let's come back over to... Where am I going? Okay, let's go over to Gill R. I'm a southern... What are you? Gill, you're... oh, hang on a second. Hitting the wrong buttons here. I'm a southern gospel bass singer. I seem to have trouble singing certain vowels in the lower register. Any tips? Gill, it's likely that we would want to, you know, look in on how your airflow is working on those certain vowels. It's important to understand that, you know, certain vowels you will find easier than others. And so in working with those, you know, your harder vowels, workshopping the lower register. I love it when we do get questions like this about lower notes, because we spend so much time focused on our high notes. It's important to remember we do need to workshop our lower register. Now, you will find that certain notes, as you've said, Gill, will be more troubling than others. And that's going to come down to what your larynx, the position of your larynx, in team with what is happening with your sense of airflow through the larynx, and in what's happening above the larynx, which is going to come down to the shape of the vowel. And those three things combined, not to mention the volume that you're placing on that, or the texture, whether it's a breathy note or a full voice note or what have you, all of those are going to combine to create the complexity that may result in certain, you know, vowels being more challenging than others. And so what I would encourage you to do is using some vocal exercises, you know, spend time workshopping the lower register, you know, on different vowels. So for example, in Voice Essentials, and you can use, you know, you can actually access the first exercise on Voice Essentials 1 completely for free via the links below. If you go far enough on exercise 1, and this is actually, I do this on a whole number of the tracks, it will actually come back the other direction. So you work the voice going up, ya, 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 and it just keeps going up, right? But it gets to a point, an apex point, where, oh, we're actually now coming back down the scale, and we start to move down. Now, this allows you to purposefully work the voice in that direction, to work the lower lower portions of your voice, and that will hopefully help to help you develop that lower ed register, which for Southern Gospel bass singer, I think, is almost certainly going to be really helpful. Okay, so Emmanuel Cadet is asking, what are you asking, Emmanuel? How do I improve my breath for singing and vocal stamina? Yeah, it was just today, Emmanuel, that I was actually even just reading about a particular pedagogue, remain nameless, who, was really talking about how it's not important to work on your breath. And I just, and I say this respectfully, as I think about this internationally known singing teacher, I respectfully disagree. And I know there are a lot of pedagogues who do disagree. Breath is not everything. So I wouldn't want that to be heard coming out of my mouth, but it is one of those foundational pillars to developing free voice. And it is foundational because it's only as you establish an ability to manage your own biology, your own body, to manage air so that it flows in a well-managed, consistent, even, dare I say, natural way, that you are then able to kind of forget about it. But I'm yet to meet a singer who's able to do that intuitively. I'm sure they exist. Maybe you're one of them, I don't know. But I've been teaching a long time, and a lot of people, we need to work on this really intentionally to make it unintentional, if that makes any sense. And so my encouragement to you is to develop your breathing. I would encourage you to jump across onto my onto the YouTube channel. Firstly, subscribe. Secondly, jump to the videos tab and go looking for, it's one of my most recent, like if you search for breathing, you'll find it's one of the most recent videos on it. It's like 16, 17, 18 minutes long. It's quite a long video. There's a worksheet that's a part of that video. And so if you have a watch of that, it's going to step you through a 28-day challenge, if you will, of developing your breath. And I'm sure you'll find that really helpful, Emmanuel. Red Mine, I can see that you've provided us with a super chat, which I really appreciate. Thanks for throwing that in. So Red Mine, I've been struggling, I want to get to your question now. I've been struggling to sing above a B3 for a year, ever since I started my journey, and it's even more difficult to belt D sharp 4 and above. How can I start approaching this range so I can improve? Red Mine, as I often say with really specific questions like yours, I would need to hear you and see you and how you're approaching that singing of your range. More often than not, it's due to overt tension, too much effort that is being placed on the larynx and therefore creating too much, vocal load, which then causes the larynx to constrict, which then restricts the ability for the voice to sing high. Most male voices, and I am being presumptuous there, Red Mine, but given that you're talking about singing up to B3, I'm suspecting that you're a low voice type. Most male voices should be able to sing above B3. And so we would be looking at workshopping breath, workshopping tension management, and doing that by virtue of learning to allow the voice to move through the registration. And that takes some time. For a lot of singers, that takes time of building better balance, building better coordination of the musculature, and it's a process. I was saying to a student earlier today, this is a process, and there is a certain level of trusting the process and letting that process over time do its task. In fact, I was talking to a singer in Thailand on the weekend. She's a professional gigging singer, and we were just really talking about how there's no quick fix. This is going to be something that takes time, and in many singers' cases, it's not only the time to develop the new tricks. It's a matter of replacing the old ways, the inefficiencies that the voice has established over sometimes decades. And so teaching the muscles to develop new muscle memory takes time. So Redmine, I hope you can get into that in time. I don't know. Anyway, Mackenzie. Dr. Dan, can you add to Peyton's question and maybe talk about, so Peyton was asking about the TMJ, talk about EDS if you've heard of it, or hypermobility. The term EDS does ring a bell, but I've got to admit to you, Mackenzie, that in this very moment in time, I'm not locating it in my brain as to what that is. Perhaps, Linda, if you could just let me know and remind me what EDS is. Here it comes. Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. That is not what I thought it would be, and so actually, Mackenzie, I don't know. If you're talking about hypermobility, which I dare say the hypermobile joints of the jaw, etc., it may well be that your capacity for the jaw joint to move beyond what it really should will be really assisted quite a bit by the work I do, because I encourage that neutral jaw position. I actually discourage, overextension of the opening. As we get higher in our singing, there is a need for the jaw to actually move down a bit more. But, the funny thing is, typically nowhere near as much as you think. And so that's why we start off with the neutral jaw position, because it helps to reframe what is that movement needing to be. So certainly in the work we do here at Voice Essentials, I would like to think that is going to be helpful with something like hypermobility of, in this case, the jaw. Coming down here to shh, an interesting handle. That's literally who I'm answering here. Shh. Can I substitute? No, well, there's three things going on here. We'll see how we go in answering three. It's a cheeky thing to do, is throw three questions into one. Can I substitute vocal exercises with constant singing? No, absolutely not. You cannot substitute exercises with singing. And I'll tell you why. Is because if you always do what you've always done, you've always get what you've always got. Yeah? When we sing songs, and we absolutely want to be singing songs, right? So that's a given. So I'm not saying don't sing songs, but your voice will approach the singing of those songs like it's always done. You might get some instruction from a singing teacher who is more of a vocal coach / stylist coach, who will say, can you brighten that note, or that, can we go a little bit more breathy here? And so some stylist input is great. But even the way your voice goes about doing that instruction is likely to come about just by what it intuitively thinks to do or knows to do. Good vocal technique, I go into this in the Dr. Dan Singing Start. This is why I say this course, this new course that I'm writing, but hands down, it is the course I wish I had have had before I started my journey as a singer. Anyway, this is going to be answered in detail in the course. But when you start, now I've lost my train of thought. When the way that we reconstitute, rewire our vocal approach is by teaching it new neural pathways. And we do that using exercises, looking for very specific tonal outcomes, but not only that, physical attributes as well. And doing an exercise, which typically doesn't have lyric, for example, where we get to just repeat, a phrase, and really an exercise is a melody, but it's a repeatable melody that allows us to workshop that particular function over a number of points in our voice, perhaps even, using different vowels, because different vowels will have different implications at different points in our range. Then we get to rework that. A song does not give you that ability. So it's absolutely, if you are wanting to really advance your vocal, your voice, then doing dedicated, task-specific voice exercises is really important. That's your first question. Second question, how frequently should I do vocal exercises? Well, within the Voice Essentials process, we start with every second day for about 20 minutes for the first module of Voice Essentials 1, for example. And then after the second module, we go to 25 minutes every second day. And through the entire 10 modules, we're kind of adding 5 minutes here and there until we're doing around about an hour-ish. Some voices will cope with less, and some voices will maybe cope with more, but it's around about an hour every second day. When we step into Voice Essentials 2 and we start to, up it a little bit, then we can add a day. So we're maybe doing, 5 days a week, but still only for about an hour, maybe a little bit more. Then we get to Voice Essentials 3, and now we're not only just starting to do it for 5-6 days a week, we're also starting to practice, maybe we're doing 2 45-minute sets of practice. So it's, as you can see, what we're doing there is we're building our stamina over time, slowly but surely, to get to a point at which we can carry, carry the vocal load that we need to. And I will be kind and answer your third. What is the proper way to control my breathing and belting? Let me have the drink here for a second. What is the proper way to control my breathing and belting? Well, that I can't actually answer really quickly. I'd encourage you to jump in and have a look at the online courses. I do have a free mini course. If you go to 7 Days to a Better Voice, the numeral 7 days to a better voice.com, you can enroll in my free mini course. It's all there for you, and you might want to have a look at going through that. And we do talk about breathing and belting for that matter, so have a look at the mini course. Team Breezy, how often should you do vocal exercises? The Team Breezy's will be the second to last question that I will answer today. So if you do have a question that you absolutely need answered, now is the time to put your super chat in. Team Breezy, how often should you do vocal exercises? And how often should you rest? I overdid it and now my voice is injured. I think I might have just answered that actually, Team Breezy. I would want to know if your voice is injured or if it's simply just a bit, fatigued to the point of feeling like it needs a little bit longer rest. More often than not, particularly for younger singers, the voice is wonderfully resilient, and so it will usually recover quite quickly. It can take 2 to 3 days, but generally the voice should be back to its normal self after 2 or 3 days of vocal rest. If it is not back to its fully functional self after 2 weeks, you absolutely need to go to a laryngologist and have it looked at, because that to have a voice that is not returning to its usual self after 2 weeks, something may, I'm definitely not going to say is definitely, something may be awry that you want to have looked at, and it's better that you get it checked so that can be responded to. But for the most part, most voices will return to their better selves after 2 or 3 days. That certainly is not to suggest that that you every weekend you can just throw caution to the wind and beat your voice up, because if you do that repetitively over a long extended period of time, you are going to run into trouble. So we definitely want to see you learning to manage the voice. And Team Breezy, this is why I encourage the development of your stamina over time. If I wanted to, and I've used this analogy before, if I wanted to run a marathon, I couldn't do it tomorrow. Well, maybe I could. Maybe I had to. I'm really going to suffer. I'll suffer doing the marathon, but I will suffer for the next number of weeks in my recovery. To ensure that the load that the marathon requires does not have a overly detrimental effect on my physical well-being, I need to develop over time to the point where I can carry that amount of output physically. And we're not talking weeks, we're talking months, and the older we get, the longer that takes, and because our biologies are getting older, and therefore our recovery rates get longer and all those sorts of things. So it's learning to manage your own capacities and doing it really cleverly. Okay, one last question to Jeanette, and then we have to call it a day. Do you recommend cardio to improve singing? Jeanette, yes, cardio is a positive thing to do. I'll be at the gym tonight, and I will almost certainly do cardio as a part of my process. It's great for aerobic activity. So I do a lot of fast walking. I do a lot of rowing. I enjoy the rower, and so I do those sorts of cardio-based activities, and they do just improve your overall management of breath, because, as you know, the fitter you become, the less given you are to taking shallow breath. You're able to manage your air better. And so, Jeanette, I encourage you to work out your cardio. One of the best things that a singer can do is to do swimming. I don't get to do swimming. It's just, location and yada yada. I don't get to do swimming, but swimming is great for a singer. And so if that's something you'd be into, I'd highly recommend the swimming. Well, there you go. And I've just seen a new student jump in. So I won't mention who that is, but maybe you've in the super chat, and I've just seen you jump in for a new lesson. So it'll be good to have you. Everyone, I hope you've enjoyed today. As I said, don't forget to watch last week's show. If you missed it, go and watch my discussion with Dr. McMahon about vocal identity. So many people contacted me to say, oh my goodness, I needed to hear this. And so if you haven't yet heard it, please, 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 you will find it so encouraging. Go and have a watch of it. And then don't forget to subscribe, because next week we've got Professor Gill. Professor Gill is one of the leading singing teacher / researchers in the world. I kid you not. He's a great guy to boot. Please come and join us next week, because you are going to learn so much from one of the world's leading experts in the area of learning to sing and developing your voice and all those sorts of things. And before you sign off, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you've enjoyed today's show, which I really hope you have. I very much look forward to seeing you again next week for our third last show, which will be our last guest show. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.